The Florida Gators are national champions. They beat Houston last night 65-63. They are one of 4 teams since 2000 to win 3 or more men's basketball championships. Florida is in the group with UNC, UConn, and Duke. What were your thoughts about this game?
Yeah, I mean, the whole game just kind of felt like it was waiting for Florida to kind of pull through. They obviously had a really bad shooting first half, and it kind of continued on into the majority of the second half. But once they turned it on, felt like they were clearly the better team. Obviously, props to Houston. I feel like just throughout the whole tournament run, they haven't been given enough credit. They beat some really good teams along the way, and they've just been a scrappy defensive team all season long. So I just wanted to start with them. Houston's a really good team, and they play a different kind of basketball from, it feels like, the finesse and other teams where they're just running and gutting and outscoring you. That's kind of what the SEC was this season with teams like Alabama and namely Florida, who made it to the national championship. They scored 100 points at some point during the NCAA run, and felt like more of a team that would have had to outscore you. And Houston's game maybe could have adjusted to that, and it did for the majority of it. They weren't used to playing a physical team like Houston. Give them all the credit for that, but in terms of pure talent and skill, it felt like Florida was always the better team. And if Florida could just make a shot, if Walter Clayton could get anything going in the first half, that game really wouldn't have been close. I think they had something like 10 plus turnovers in the first half. Like, it was just a Houston masterclass on defense and maybe a Florida disaster class on offense. And when you looked at the score at halftime, it was still super close. So going into that second half, it kind of felt like it was just waiting for Florida to take that game, and they eventually did, like they've done in the tournament all tournament long. They've been down in every single one of their tournament games except the first round, and they've obviously 12 points was the biggest lead that they had to come back down from. But they have been put in positions like that, and they were made for positions like that. And Walter Clayton didn't have his best game, only finished with 11 points. There was a lot of supporting cast people that had to step up, but they did. Elijah Martin also didn't have his best game, but the supporting cast stepped up around them, and they made shots when they needed to, and they overall had a really good game. And I personally enjoyed the national championship a lot.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a great game. I mean, obviously, we saw 3 really good games in for the finals here in the NCAA tournament. That was kind of the whole point with the 1 seeds making it this far. But yeah, like you said to start, definitely big credit to Houston. If there was any way that they were going to win this game, I almost felt like it was the way that they were winning this. It was this kind of game, and so I just gotta give credit to them. They gave Florida their best shot. They were like, Walter Clayton, maybe he didn't have it going. Maybe they were just going to say, hey, he's not going to beat us. Somebody else is going to have to do it. Regardless, he didn't score till 7.5 minutes left in this game. And then he ended with 11 points. So it's like, you're going to have to just give it up to them because Florida still made their free throws and they were able to get out of the press a couple times. There's a really, really close call. I'm forgetting exactly how much time was left on the clock in this game. Maybe 20 seconds or so, something like that. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's kind of down, towards the scorers table almost, or maybe the opposite side where they threw a pass and a Houston defender fouled one of the guys for Florida. It was just it was a mess. It was 20 seconds to go. And that was their one chance to get a steal off the inbounds, and they weren't able to do it. But that was something that Duke would have been able to do. What?
I'm starting to put together what call you're talking about, but yes, it took me a minute there. I need the full picture for a second.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's so if they were able to get that steal or something like that, then that would have definitely been able to give them a little bit of a boost, just like it did in the Duke game. But
Yeah, it almost felt like
Florida got it going.
they gave that game away to Florida, and then they were about to steal it right back like they did against Duke at the very end of it. Obviously, they kept it close throughout the whole game, and towards the end, they lose their lead for the first time. I think it was they took Duke. Florida had taken their first lead from since 8-6 in the first half. And it just felt like Houston had because of what happened, literally the game before, Houston had it in them to maybe pull it out. But obviously, we see that last possession, and clearly it just didn't.
Yeah, and Houston made a lot of shots throughout this game, but neither team really shot very well from 3. I mean, obviously both in the 20s, but there were some really huge shots from that Houston team where it felt like, okay, this is their night. Because LJ Cryer he made some remarkable threes, like answers. Whenever Florida would maybe make a shot, just go right down, and Houston would end up matching it. And there were some punches that you just think are almost knockout blows from Houston to this Florida team whenever they were just scrambling on offense. And there were those huge runs, especially early on in this game, right? There was a big 8-0 run, I think, when the teams were kind of, I think it was 21-20, then it ended up being 29-20. And it was like Houston just their best shot. And I texted you actually during the game, and I said, look, if Florida like pulls this game out and they win this, I hate to say it, but we're going to completely forget about this Houston team because it's going to be Walter Clayton Jr.'s run with Florida, and then also the legacy of Florida, right? Because they've been so good since the mid 2000s, and or at least you know what I mean. They've been able to reach the top of 3 times since the mid 2000s, and they have their own story to be told. And I think this Houston team is going to get kind of like lost, but it's a shame. They really gave their best shot.
Yeah, and just like how like a lot of teams get lost, I feel like UNC losing on that buzzer beater is kind of one of the most memorable like final like championship losses. But after that, naming like championship losers it gets a little bit harder as time progresses, especially if the game isn't as good. Obviously, this one was lived up to a lot of the hype, but I mean, you look at it like a Houston team that's been doing this for years now, and with Kelvin Sampson at the helm. And in 2021, they lose to Baylor. Obviously, that game wasn't close, and that's kind of why that team gets lost in history. But that team was really good. They were still in the American Athletic Conference at that point, and they make it all the way to the Final Four as maybe like they weren't an underdog, but like still a really good season for that from them. Nobody really talks about it, but just in general, nobody really talks about the losers in college basketball, especially even if you get so close. So it is unfortunate. But my main takeaway from watching this, and just I guess college basketball in general all season long, obviously you know how like drastic the difference is from an NBA player to an average person, or NBA player to high school player, or NBA player to college player. But it is so stark. Like the fact that the offensive outputs were so drastically bad from like you have a few really, really good players in college, and you hope that those players can like carry the team's momentum throughout. Like, but it really runs through those players. And if not, the other players really do look like college basketball players. You just don't really see that with NBA. That's like the most drastic difference. Obviously, it's two completely different levels of basketball, but I think it's pretty evident when you're watching an NBA game as opposed to a college game. Even role players are making like some crazy shots or just like wide open shots that they should be making in college. It's a lot different. So I think that watching a national championship game where this is supposed to be like two of the best 5 teams in college basketball history, if this is like the best ever that we're seeing in KenPom ratings or whatever you want to do, just two of the best teams that we've ever seen in college basketball, it just makes it so that I texted you this, that the arguments where you can kind of have in football where maybe 2019 LSU is like it could beat up on one of the Browns teams that went like, went winless. Like that just isn't possible in college basketball. Like I couldn't, if you
And it's
played,
not even close.
yeah, if you had like the worst team in the NBA play either of these teams 10 times, I don't think they get a win. Like the college teams get a win. And if they do, it'd be by some miracle that like everything was just going wrong for the NBA team, which I think is just so interesting. And it just reminds you that there's two different levels of ball. A lot of these players won't make it to the NBA, but I mean, really good basketball to watch. And it was a really fun game. And just kind of what we were leading up to the whole tournament. Like everybody was saying, just wait another round, just wait to the Final Four. And it finally delivered, and we got 3 really great games, like you were saying.
Well, when you actually mentioned the which teams could win, I wasn't thinking like historically, but like I almost feel like some of the great, like the Kentucky one and done teams almost, not the Anthony Davis one, but like the Karl Anthony Towns one, maybe that could give a team a run for their money in a game, like if they can match up against one of those really, really bad Charlotte Bobcats teams of that era or something like that. But yeah, no. And the games are so different too. Like the way that they play college basketball, the sets that they run, I've heard about it, talked about it. And it's like it's not the same. It's nowhere near the same. It's like 25 years outdated. So I don't
Yeah.
even think they could do anything against any NBA team. I think every team in the Final Four honestly would lose by 50. If it really mattered and you had to play the entire game from start to finish, I think they would all lose by 50 points.
Yeah, and the college game is just so much more reminiscent of like the old game where it's kind of like feed the paint and like kind of like scrappy and like especially with Houston scrappy and hustle defense and all these great things which like are the like basis of basketball. But like when you get to the NBA, everyone is just so good that like you have like centers now that are like pretty good at shooting threes. You have like small forwards and power forwards who are not only athletic but like can pull up from essentially half court. So it's just like you don't see that in college basketball, and you shouldn't see that in college basketball because it is two different games. But like just when watching this and then flipping on the NBA, like also the same day, like watching the Heat game, it's just such a crazy difference. And it's no disrespect to these players. Like a lot of them like play really good brands of basketball. It just is completely different games.
Also, shout out Will Richard. Kept
Yes.
Florida in this game for a lot of it. So I feel like we hadn't mentioned his name. I can't remember if you did. So I just felt like he needed to get at least one shout out.
No, yeah, that was definitely one of the supporting cast members that like I said in general, but Will Richard was like named to the first team all tournament team. Like he definitely deserved to be in there. I know there was a lot of like there was some cries for Elijah Martin. He didn't have the best championship game, so I could see why you put Will Richard in there stepping up in the biggest moments. But yeah, I know there was some clout for Janai Broom as well. I think they got the first team all tournament team right, and most outstanding player I think had to go to Walter Clayton just because of what he was doing before. Obviously, it's for the Final Four, but he put up 34 points and got them in that game. So I don't see how you don't give it to him. And he had a good second half too. Like the 11 points, really, like the couple and ones that he had really kept them in that game, and really like they don't win that game I don't think without him. Although that first half was absolutely atrocious. It was like we just had a draft stock conversation. That first half like maybe wasn't great for it.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the OKC Thunder. They had a pretty horrendous loss against the Lakers a handful of days ago. Is there cause for concern when we look at this Thunder team and how far they can go in the Western Conference?
Yeah, I know that the last couple games haven't been all that great for the OKC Thunder, but I don't see there really being a cause for concern. They're playing some of the best teams in the league, and at this point, they have the one seed wrapped up. They don't need to win these games. Like they still have their starters out. It's not like they're coasting, just like riding their bench players. But I don't see it being as big of a cause for concern as like ESPN or like any of the major outlets are making it out to be, especially with like Shannon Sharp being like, okay, like the Lakers are like the greatest team we've ever seen, whatever, Lakers in 5. Like the Lakers definitely have some holes. And I think this OKC team has been solid all season long. They average 120 points per game. They're the best point differential in the league. They have the best record in the league. They have the like best record in the Western Conference. Everyone will have to go to them and see them in their building. And obviously, they got beaten in their building last year, but this is a completely new season. They have a little bit more of that playoff experience. Shea has stepped up to the plate. He's probably like he's the odds-on favorite for MVP. So I just don't see it being as big of an issue as a lot of people are making it out to be. And it's not like they're losing against if they were losing against like the 76ers or any of these like the Washington or any of these bottom feeder teams, I could see it. And I understand the record against the top teams in the league, which I think you'll hint at is not like probably what it should be based off like what the record is overall. But they beat up on the good team, on the bad teams, which is what they're supposed to do. And they at least it's not like they're getting blown out by any of the good teams either.
Yeah. So some of these games you have to just take with a grain of salt. Like the Lakers hit, I think 68% from the 3-point line in the first half of that game. And then also, yeah, you mentioned it. I was going to talk a little bit about the record. Their record against top teams isn't all that great. I believe they're sitting somewhere around 5-5, and it escapes me who exactly is in that group, but I'm guessing, the top couple seeds from the East, or if it's just the top seeds in the West. Regardless, it's not that great, but they are undefeated against Memphis and the Clippers. So, like, that's a huge thing, and I think that shows that this team can compete. I'm not really too concerned with the Lakers in the same way that a lot of people are saying they're fraudulent or they can't actually win or they're going to go out to the Lakers. But I just think that there needs to be an honest conversation. Yes, this team is 64-14. They've wrapped it up, the first seed in the Western Conference, and it's a real accomplishment. It really is. They have the MVP or the most likely player to be the MVP. But actually, do we see them going to the finals? Like legitimately, like they'll probably beat whoever comes out of the play-in. I think Memphis threw away their season, and right now the Clippers are at the 5th seed, and Minnesota's at the 7th seed. So it's like, regardless, any sort of shuffle, Golden State, I think Golden State could give them a good series, but it's like I don't know how. Like I think they'll win that first round, but then now we're talking Lakers, Denver, like some teams like that, and that's where I start to question because if Jalen Williams is your second best player, I think he's really, really good. But I'm starting to now think that a lot of these teams, when we compare them, are going to have either two of the top three players or the top two players.
Yeah, I don't see, like, a series where they, like, have the top 2 player like, the other team would have the top 2 players
You
because
don't think the Lakers, I'm just at, with all due respect to both. Okay, I
I
could
think
see
Shea
that.
is
I think Shea,
undoubtedly better than LeBron at this point.
but they certainly don't have the experience like that. And I think you almost have to knock off a couple free throws in the playoffs if you're talking about Shea. I'm being so serious that the
Yeah,
rest
no.
blow the whistle. I believe for his career, the number hasn't dropped in the playoffs for free throws, but you play long enough, I think that number will drop. And look, I'm not trying to say like LeBron or Doncic are better than Shea right now, but they certainly have more playoff experience. And when we get into a series like that, where whether it's 6 to 7 games or something, that's going to like wear on you. And I almost feel like the Lakers, they have holes, but is OKC's actual ceiling separate from putting up this many wins in the regular season actually indicative of a team like the Lakers, who is built, in my opinion, still pretty well, top heavy, but still pretty well, of them definitely not being able to beat the Thunder?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Lakers are one of the biggest threats to OKC making the finals. But if they don't get like to the conference finals, I'd be shocked, and I just don't see it happening where I don't at least make the conference finals. I don't think the Lakers are gonna beat them,
Okay,
and
what
maybe
about Denver? What about Denver? Because the Lakers are the third seed, Denver's the fourth. If you be shocked, then I'm guessing Houston is going to go beat up on, like, I don't know, the Lakers or Houston will play right now. They're the 2-3 seed in the semis, but like OKC and Denver, or OKC versus, I mean, I think they beat the Clippers. I don't know if how the Clippers get out of the first round, but
yeah, I mean, I was reflecting back on that Lakers game. Obviously, everyone was talking about the free throws and everything like that. Shea still had 26 points in 30 minutes. That game was pretty like early, pretty over pretty early. But I mean, he still had a pretty decent game. The supporting cast wasn't all there for him. And just throughout the season, if you watch OKC, like Jalen Williams obviously like has made the All-Star team this season. He's had a really good season. I feel like he's a little bit underrated. It's not like the same as having like a crazy like All NBA player as your second supporting cast member, or like LeBron to Luca. But I think that team as a whole, from top to bottom, is just a little better than anybody else in the Western Conference right now, and they'd be my finals pick right now.
whoa, yeah, like the team to come out of the Western Conference or the team to win it all?
No, the team to come out of the Western Conference.
Who do you think
Um,
is coming out of the East then? Like Boston or Cleveland?
Probably Boston or
Probably,
Cleveland.
probably Boston.
Uh, yeah, I think Cleveland can give them still a really good series, but like I was saying, Jalen Williams has been playing really well this season. Chet Holmgren has been consistent since he's come back. He's had a couple of 20-point games in the last couple of games. What were you gonna say?
I like Chet Holmgren. I think he'll be really good, but this is my issue, my main issue, because I want to also circle back to my Shea comment. I have just no disrespect to Shea, but I do think that Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren they're still 1 year away. I think Shea is ready, and I think a lot of pieces on this team where they are fitting and their specific roles are ready, but I don't think Chet and Jalen Williams are ready. Like if I'm looking at this team being a real true finals team, like if you make it to the finals, you are a championship contender, unless the other team that's going out is a super team that you have no shot at. Like, so I just don't know if I see that. And then it's like, okay, well, you're going to probably have to get through whoever in the first round. And I think it's respectable, but it's certainly not what it was last year, in my opinion, or in years past. I mean, I think Minnesota is the only viable play-in team. So, they're going to go play Houston or something like that. But then you have you have Denver and then Los Angeles. And then I really do think that there's a chance that this team gets tripped up before the finals. Because those teams, now Denver, the supporting cast around Jokic isn't all that great, but I could see it going in a very similar fashion as maybe it did last year against the
Conference
Mavericks.
series. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I think that the Nuggets would give them a harder series than the Lakers would personally, but I
Wow.
think
Okay.
that yeah, hot take.
I'm
But
I'm flipped on that.
I Yeah, no, I think the Lakers maybe take them to 6. I don't see the Lakers taking 3 games off this Oklahoma City team. I'm sorry. They've been really good all season. They're not just a really good offensive team. They average 120 points a game, but they again best point differential, which means that they're really good defensively. They have a lot of really good players. Isaiah Hardenstein, since getting him, he's averaged a double-double for the season. He's been really good on offense and on defense. Lou Dort, obviously, like maybe not the craziest offensive player, only averages 10 points a game, but really is like known as more of that defensive stopper and has improved on offense throughout the years. I think that if Chet and Jalen Williams can put together a decent series, Shea can carry them. And even if the whistle is a little bit worse, again, in a Lakers game that was a blowout and he didn't shoot a single free throw, he still had 26 points. Shea doesn't just shoot free throws. I know that is like the narrative surrounding him at this point, but like he's a bucket. So I like this. I like this Oklahoma City team. I think that this is their year to make the finals.
We'll just have to wait and see. We'll have
See.
to wait and see. All right, let's talk about I was almost about to say the WNBA. Let's talk about the women's college game, who also had their championship this past week. The ratings were down, but it was still a major growth when you compare it to years past. But obviously, there's a bit of a Caitlin Clark effect. She's now with the Indiana Fever, not in college basketball. A lot of great storylines for this women's tournament, but when you see that number, I believe it dropped like what 7 million viewers over
Yeah.
like year over year, but still, like I mentioned, a pretty big improvement from the years prior to that. What when you see that number, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the number is definitely like significantly lower than last year, and I think we all know why. Caitlin Clark like has made what women's basketball is at this point, to at least the viewership extent. Her style of basketball is just so much fun to watch. Everybody like knows that she's always going to have a good game. It feels like she's always shooting like these crazy shots, has a really good handle, like had I think the first ever like 19, I think she's the most assists in WNBA history in her rookie season with like 19 or some number like that. Like she doesn't just like make crazy shots, but she like finds her teammates and it just improves all the players around her. Her game in general is just like I was saying, a lot of fun to watch, and I think that is the main reason for the viewership. Also, the women's tournament, just in general, is like vastly more predictable. Like the gap between the first and the 68th best team is quite like stark in the women's game versus the men's game. Obviously, there is a drastic difference. We see the like the first seed beating up on the 16 all the time in the men's tournament, including this year, where like the average point differential was like 30 points. Like that is just a general like known thing. But then you see like 6 seeds beating up on 11 seeds by like 20 or 30 points. Like this tournament, and like this is the closest anyone's ever gotten a perfect bracket in this current format. ESPN put out that like their best bracket went 19 had 1910 points out of 1920 possible points. The only game that the one person got wrong was a first round game where they picked Utah instead of whoever Utah was playing. So just in general, like this tournament feels like a lot more predictable. And even in the national championship, UConn was the 2 seed, but were they really the 2 seed? Like they got like kind of snubbed out of the 1 seed at the end of the season, and they proved why they were deserving of a 1 seed, obviously winning the national championship. But in that game, pregame, the spread was 7.5 points, and UConn was favored by they were minus 340 to win the national championship. So a South Carolina team that was a 1 seed and played really well all season were significant underdogs, and it just felt like every step of the way we kind of knew who was winning, especially without Juju Watkins in for USC. That could have been, that probably would have been the highest rated like game overall, because of you just didn't have the star power this year. Like I couldn't name more than 2 players on the South Carolina team, unfortunately, and I know Paige Beckers, but I don't really know anyone else. So when you had Angel Reese versus Paige Beckers, or Camila Gardoso versus Caitlin Clark, or Angel Reese or whoever, like you had those stars in the game like last year, but this year not so much, besides Paige Beckers. And I think that if Juju Watkins isn't making waves next year, which I'm sure she will, and if she, but like there needs to be a star for people to watch. I feel like, and there didn't feel like there was that, except for Paige Beckers this year, and she still drew like a crazy crowd. But like 3 million views is nothing. 3 million consistent viewers is nothing to scoff at. But it's definitely a dip from Caitlin Clark's 10 million last year.
Yeah, it was officially 10.8 to 3.9. Uh, I think you're kind of alluding to it. There are just simply levels to this. You can be a star like Paige Beckers. She is a women's basketball star. Caitlin Clark is a sports star. She
Yeah.
is like an icon, like literally. So you're going to see some drop. I love how you brought up Juju Watkins, though. That injury definitely really hurt the tournament, I would say, overall. And then, yeah, we were talking about this, or not we, but like we've heard this been talked about for a long time. Obviously, UConn won their 12th national championship under Gino Auriemma, and it's like there is a level of draw that dynasties and dominance brings, but when you don't feel like you're getting challenged along the way, along the journey, it's a little bit, it has a little pushback. It's like, okay, well, UConn's going to win. Or the average fan just thinks, oh, UConn, of course they won, right? And even if it's like slightly close, it really needs to be a battle, have rivals, storylines. And unfortunately, this year, it it did, but it didn't reach like that casual fan. And but it still had this huge increase. So it's not bad. It's not bad. It's just you clearly know what you had, what you still need, and then you just try to build on it next year. The marketing teams should be running. They should be have their minds churning. How can we make this something more of a draw? Because there's a lot of good basketball going on.
And then with the complaint with the men's tournament that there wasn't enough madness this year, I think you can carry that over even more so to the women's tournament. Obviously, we talked about the 61 or 62 out of 63 correct picks. But then if you look at the bracket, the lowest seed in the Elite Eight was a 3 seed, and there was only one of them. It was 1-2. Like the matchups in the Elite Eight, the 4 matchups were 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, and 1-3. The 3 seed being LSU. And then like in the Sweet 16, the low seed was a 5 seed, and then every other matchup was 1-4 or 2-3, and then there were 2 5 seeds that made it. So there were just if you're not going to have those stars, you almost want there to be a little bit more drama in the fact that there's going to be lower seeds getting like upsetting higher seeds, and that just doesn't really happen in the women's tournament in general. And then it proved that this year it was even more so like that. I mean, like they also had every 1 seed except UConn make it to the Final Four, like the men's tournament, except for UConn, and then UConn beat up on a USC team that didn't have Juju Watkins. So there just wasn't the drama there from like a upset perspective, and there wasn't in either tournament this year. But especially like if you're gonna try to like draw in more casual fans for like a narrative or like a team to root for, there wasn't that this year, and then there wasn't like the star power to that level this year for the ratings to really be up there. So just in general, the tournament definitely a little bit of a dip, and then that's partly the Caitlin Clark effect, maybe a little bit of the fact that the women's tournament is just so top heavy, but it's unfortunate. But I mean,
Yeah, it's another level of top heavy. Like
yeah,
that's the point. Is like this was like a all-time top heavy tournament for the men's. Yet we got 3 really great games at the very end. Like that was the whole point. Was like either way it's going to kind of work out. And I just think it's how the sport is kind of maybe not built is not the right word, but just what it has. And it has those storylines, has the NBA guys, has players and coaches that don't like each other, the fake Calipari Patino rivalry, like it has that, and then it has some like Cinderella's creeping in, and it's got a little bit of everything regardless. The baseline is a lot higher, I think. And so when you rely on Cinderella's or something like that and it doesn't come, they still have something. So for the women's game, it felt like, okay, you're relying on Caitlin Clark. Well, she's going to be gone, right? And her rivalry with Angel Reese like is a big thing. Like people watch the LSU Iowa game. And then it's like, well, when you take that away, okay, well, then what do you have? Yes, top heavy, just like the men's tournament, but the games aren't even close. Or there's not even a one Cinderella out of the first round. Like there's not even a huge upset that you can really, really bank on. That this was a great game. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. And then you also have a star that goes down because of injury. And it's like, all right, like you're due for like losing viewers. But that's what's actually so great, though, too. This is such a positive. It was up. It was still up from the years prior to Caitlin Clark. That's so big. That's growth.
yeah, no, 100%. Like it's not like this just completely dipped off and there were less than a million viewers. Like there was still like a buzz around the national championship, and it was unfortunate the time slot they put it in too. I think it like started at 3 p.m., which like we touched on like I hitting the field yesterday. They touched on this a little bit, but I just think that's girls that game they touched on it where I just thought that was like interesting that like for no other national championship that you'd ever see like a 3 p.m. time slot. I think that hurt them as well, but
Yeah,
like
it's been like that, I thought, for a while. But,
you
you're right. A very unusual time slot. Hey, I hated the 8:50 p.m. Eastern time slot for the men's. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, but just one final point I was gonna make, maybe about the lack of upsets. There were 4 total out of 32 games, there were 4 total upsets, which, I mean, like, not the worst number in the world, it could be 0, but, the upsets were on 2 9 seeds and, 2 10 seeds. So, a
Yeah.
7-10 matchup and 8-9 matchup, those were the 2 total, 4 total upsets that, happened during, the first round out of 32 games. So, it's just unfortunate when you don't have the Cinderella aspect, and then you don't have the big stars aspect, at least not matching up until the later rounds. It kind of like the tournament obviously is going to take a dip, but in general, it is growth, and it is good for that. And like just in general, 3.89 million viewers is still so many. So
Yeah. All right, so we talked a little bit of women's basketball in this episode. We didn't talk any UFL, so that's okay. That's okay though. And you have your official finals pick right now, Thunder Celtics too revealed.
Thunder Cavs.
Thunder Cavs. Oh, okay. I heard you say Celtics and Cavs, but I immediately went Celtics. I got to be honest. I'm not a Thunder Cavs guy. One of them will make it. Okay, I'll give you that. I give me Celtics.
To the Thunder, make you literally like as soon as I said the
Yeah,
Thunder making the finals,
yeah.
you had all this pushback, and now you're saying the Cavs can't make it, and one of the two are gonna make it. So
Yep. Yeah. No. I mean, I'll say Thunder Celtics. I mean, I think. Look, I'm presenting pushback because there are real reasons. It's going to be a fight. This
it
Western
is.
Conference is going to be a fight. I think Lakers Thunder maybe goes 7 in the Western Conference Finals. So serious. So serious. I love this Lakers team, bro. It's different when you get it's like, oh, we need to
They
get
could be
4
the three
games
seed
off this
too,
team.
though.
Huh?
They could be the 3 seed too, so they might not match up in
Yeah,
the West.
they're right now slotted at 3, I think. And I think they get through Houston. I think Houston is definitely I think they're gonna get knocked, but like, you know,
Yeah,
they're still a good team. It's still really successful. They've been in the playoffs in like 5 years.
yeah, I think that's so funny because everyone's like the caveat with Houston is everyone knows that they're going to lose, but it's like everyone wants to give them their credit too. So hey, shout out to Houston. Unfortunate, I think I can rule out pretty confidently that Houston won't be making the finals, but really great season for you guys.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have for today. This has been the Big Little Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Previty. That is Andrew Greig, and we'll see you guys on Friday.